We begin this morning with President Donald Trump making something abundantly clear to American voters, as well as members of his own party. When it comes to the midterm elections, he's not at all interested in winning over Americans' votes with accomplishments and achievements that improve their lives. Instead, he simply wants to focus on messing with the voting process itself to succeed this November. Just this week, Trump canceled a big bipartisan signing event on Capitol Hill for a bill that would make housing more affordable in this country, something his own press secretary was touting just the day before, calling it, quote, one of the most significant pieces of housing affordability legislation in American history. It would have been a rare win that vulnerable Republicans could have run on as a bipartisan accomplishment. Instead, as lawmakers were gathering for the event, Trump said he would not sign it unless Congress passed his big voter suppression bill, the Save America Act. It's a threat he's made multiple times over the past few months against other bills. Each time, it has been confronted by the same reality. Republicans don't have the votes to pass it in the Senate. And it appears Trump is becoming even more desperate to get this passed as federal judges this week have blocked his executive orders trying to overhaul elections and restrict the use of mail-in ballots. One of those judges made it clear to Trump in her ruling, something he just won't accept. U.S. District Judge Indira Talwani wrote, quote, the Constitution does not grant the president any specific powers over elections. Of course, that doesn't mean Trump will stop trying. Joining us now, Kimberly Atkins-Stohr, MS Now political analyst, columnist for the Boston Globe, and writer of the Supreme Court newsletter, The Gavel, and David Drucker, MS Now contributor and senior writer for The Dispatch. Welcome back to the weekend, Kimberly. Since I don't know if you're a lawyer, David. I know Kimberly is.
I just play one of
us. But you are the only attorney at the table. Could you please explain to the President of the United States why he has no role in elections?
Yeah, so he was trying to do two things, right? He was trying to punish states that did not turn over their voter rolls and also kind of commandeer the U.S. Postal Service by saying you cannot mail ballots to people who are not on this universal voter roll that they are cultivating in the White House. Mm-hmm. And
But you're not supposed to be doing,
right,
by the way.
Correct.
Okay.
They're not supposed to be doing that. And the federal judge reiterated that under the Constitution, elections are carried out by the states. It is a responsibility of the states. The Congress has a limited role. The executive branch has absolutely none, nada. And also zilch. And also the president cannot commandeer a quasi-independent agency like the U.S. Postal Service and direct it to do his bidding. So it was a double loss. I think it's important to note that these lawsuits were brought by state attorneys general and that they are serving a vital role right now in trying to fight back against the kind of election muddling that the president is insisting on doing.
States, whether they're governors or secretaries of state, are the only people really like saying, actually, you cannot take over our job. Congress has completely given up on that. One of the things that I think was really interesting this week, Alexander Bolton at The Hill, his headline is Senate GOP scrambling for a strategy to please Trump on Save America Act. I'll read from it, David. Some GOP senators want Thune to attempt to jam the Save America Act into a budget reconciliation bill that could pass the Senate with a simple majority, even though an effort to do so earlier this month failed when Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough ruled it did not comply with the Byrd Rule. The Byrd Rule governs what legislation is eligible to be included in a budget reconciliation bill, and her ruling infuriated Trump, who has repeatedly called on Thune to fire her. Obviously, reconciliation is supposed to, the bill, whatever you put in the bill, is supposed to really be about the budget and about money. The SAVE Act has nothing to do with that. But when you hear that they are bending over backwards, running all over the place, trying to figure out how to give Donald Trump a win on something that they currently don't have the votes on, they would have to fire the Senate parliamentarian to get it through the Byrd bath. What does that tell you about where we are? And, you know, there's been weeks and weeks where we have all laughed, and I think this table in particular has been like, there is no YOLO caucus. I think a lot of people were hopeful around the country that there was going to be a YOLO caucus. We have not seen that, and it's not coming.
Yeah, no, but there's a YOLO president.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Because he is not, you know, focused on what his party needs the most, and that is to focus on economic concerns, affordability being a huge part of that. He's focused on something that if you pick it apart and take its individual parts, people might say, oh, yeah, I support that, I support that. But nobody is clamoring for the federal government to take over the administering of elections. And the way the president has framed the argument is there is nothing more important than that. It's not even just, hey, guys, see what you can do about this while we're signing a housing bill and doing all these other things. It's like only this. This is the only thing that matters. What I find silly about this, but it kind of shows you where the president's head is at, which is the same place it's always at, is that what Republicans do unto you today, Democrats can do unto you tomorrow. So go ahead and fire the parliamentarian. Go ahead and scrap the filibuster. Democrats are going to be in power again sometime soon. Look at the past 25 years. This goes back and forth. And they will trash this bill. They'll put universal mail-in balloting. They'll do all these things that'll force Texas and Florida and Idaho and all these red states to govern elections the way they want. And we can just play ping pong doing this. So the whole thing is just ridiculous.
But what they cannot undo is the potential damage and the corrosiveness of Donald Trump and the Republican Party's unsubstantiated, now half-a-decade-long quest to chip away at trust in our election system. I mean, if there's any takeaway from the past 2 weeks, it should just be a reinforcement of the fact that Donald Trump is obsessed with relitigating the 2020 election and that his entire presidential agenda this second term has been about that. He has all but frozen the legislative calendar in order to try to avenge that vendetta. And yet, Trump's DOJ has struggled to show barely any evidence of widespread voter fraud. NBC did an analysis of all of the different ways in which the administration was pursuing it. Staff members of the Justice Department, the Department of Homeland Security, and intelligence agencies are focused on Trump's election grievances, hunting for instances where non-citizens voted, digging into his false claim that he won the 2020 election, even though most suspected criminal conduct from 2020 would be outside the standard 5-year statute of limitations for most federal crimes. A review of more than a dozen voter fraud-related cases publicized by the administration so far doesn't identify patterns of mass voter fraud. In some cases, it illustrates that safeguards around elections are working. Kimberly, they have all the levers of power. There's been countless court cases, countless rulings. Is the Republican Party ever going, and Donald Trump ever going to admit that there has been no voter fraud, or is this an endless, vicious cycle that we're caught in?
I mean, I can't expect the president to change the tack he has been on in claiming voter fraud. Even before the 2016 election, he was claiming that.
During the primary, he lost to Ted Cruz.
Right. So he's been doing this for a long time. Added to that list, the Department of National, the Director of National Intelligence. Like, the last thing that job entails is monitoring elections, and that's exactly what he's. In fact, I think when Tulsi Gabbard held that role, I don't think she was involved in Iran at all. She was totally she was in Georgia. So that is how focused this administration is on it. I think it's twofold. I think it's one, that he just needs to relitigate 2020. He cannot accept a loss at all, and that is just a personal vendetta. But I also think what he is desperately trying to do is find some modicum of evidence somewhere in order to foster the claim that future elections will be rigged, and that this is something that has been ongoing. He's trying to create this false narrative, and he's looking for something, and even his own Justice Department and other agencies cannot find it because it doesn't exist.
Right. On this false narrative, leave it to Congressman Thomas Massie, Republican of Kentucky, to just drop a little truth bomb on Thursday. Watch this.
I think it's ironic that we control the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, and the White House, and we're yelling election fraud. I mean, we won all the damn elections, and we're in charge, and what are we doing with it? The problem is we're wasting our opportunity that the voters gave us, and the Republicans are going to pay for that in November. It'll be an absolute shellacking if they don't wake up.
So, I mean, got the White House, you got the House, you got the Senate, you got the Supreme Court, and you're still screaming about voter fraud and not focusing on the issues at hand. And this gets to what you wrote about, David, on Tuesday. Trump's economic pivot isn't coming. He's made that clear. For Republicans in Congress who've been clinging to the hope that President Donald Trump might finally focus on the economy ahead of the midterm elections, their time might be better spent searching for proof that the tooth fairy is real. And just want to point out that you wrote that it was the day before President Trump said, forget y'all, I'm not signing this housing bill.
Well, if you followed him for the past 10 years, I mean, let me back up here. I am prescient, man. I mean, can I predict that? But the truth is, if you've been paying attention to this man for the last 10 years, you know, in the first term, remember it became somewhat of a parlor game, kind of a joke, you know. This is the moment he pivoted to being a real president, a conventional president, unconventional candidate. Remember, remember that the first speech of the joint session of Congress, and everyone's like, "Hey, look, like normal." And then 3 days later, Obama spied on me.
Right.
You know, Brett Kavanaugh appointed to the Supreme Court. Conservatives were like, "Hey, normal." 2 weeks later, I can trust Putin more than my own intelligence agency. So the man is, I like to say, a complicated political figure, but not a complicated man.
Yes.
He is singularly focused on his things that interest him and his grievances, and the things that, to a degree, moderated what he would follow through on in the first term. You know, he felt encumbered by the fact that he was running for re-election. He is not running for anything anymore because he is turned out. And so he is approaching this presidency with all of the, doing everything that he ever dreamed he might want to do. From the very beginning, he never had any use for Congress. From the very beginning, he never took well to criticism from voters. And so this is how he has been, and this is how he will be to finish out his last 2.5 years.